dude, that's how we play. That's honestly every RE deck I've ever played is like that's all it is. It's like, yo, I'm just gonna have exactly what I need. What's up, YouTube? Today I have a super special community spotlight for you. We are here with Trent from Lineage Break. We are gonna learn a little more about our friend over there at where are you from over on the east side?
Massachusetts.
Massachusetts. You might be like the first person I've ever talked to from Massachusetts. Like, I mean, obviously I have the other guys that you talk to, but in an interview context and like hanging out, being like, "Where are you from, man?" Massachusetts. You don't hear that all the time. I guess Boston's over there, so there are some people. But all that being said, man, thank you so much for joining us today. I really just wanted to kind of talk to you about everything leaning from who you are as a competitor, as a community member. And then on top of that, we're going to later in this video get into you actually took the Nico deck that Isaac put up on our channel to a regionals and you took it down, which is super cool.
Mm-hmm.
So all that is what you guys have to look forward to in the future. But why don't we start off? Why don't you tell us a little about yourself and what got you into Grand Archive?
So, yeah, I mean, I've been a Magic player for like 30 years. I love Magic. And then I kind of got out of it for a long time. Like they started printing a bunch of cards in card types that I wasn't really into. And so like I stopped playing. And then like I found pre-modern Magic, which is like all the cards that I grew up with. And I was like, oh, this is sick. And so I started playing with the Duress crew. You can see their thing behind me, over in Worcester. And I was like into pre-modern. And then like I was hanging out with them. And one of the guys had a house party. And so I went. And like Mark shows up. And he's like, I never met Mark in my life.
Sure.
And he's like, who wants to play this anime card game? Like, just chat. I'm like, this sounds awesome. Sure, I'm in. Like, so that's kind of how I got into Grand Archive. But like for me, being just being a card game enthusiast for a long time, I really was super big into Magic. But this is actually only the second TCG I've ever played.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, I tried playing a little bit of Yu-Gi-Oh after I got into GA because like Mark is like, you got to play Yu-Gi-Oh, you got to try it, and I was like, I hate this.
Oh, dude, I mean, it's wild. Yu-Gi-Oh is wild. Those like competitive Yu-Gi-Oh players that are playing right now is crazy to watch. It's actually like crazy high skill. Like the stuff that they're doing, there's way too much if you haven't played. Like I haven't played for years, and so Yu-Gi-Oh is over my head now. There's way too much going on.
Oh yeah, no, I was learning about the cards, and like my favorite part about the game is the card names. I love the card names. They're so bizarre, like Goblin's Crazy Beast.
Yeah, love it. So good.
So yeah, I mean, I guess that's my background is just like I've been a Magic player for a long time.
Yeah, same. I don't meet too many guys that have been playing as long as I have, so it's nice. I started playing Magic in '98, Tempest, Stronghold Exodus, that whole block. That was where I fell in love with the game. My boy Mog Fanatic, Jackal Pup, a little Red Beatdown. White Weenie was super cool back then. That's kind of how I learned how to play the game. Like Shadow Priest, Imperial Armor.
The Shadow Priest.
Oh, dude, yeah, all that fun stuff. Spirit Link. Oh my gosh, take me back. But now we're showing our age a little bit, brother. So we gotta stop. All these kids are so young that play GA. Which is pretty funny. I'm not used to being one of the oldest in the community because we play Magic. So like my dad plays Magic. So like any event you might go to, if you go to like an old school Grand Prix, which kind of feels like a sense today, right? Which is super cool. They've got cosplayers and artists and booths and all the super cool stuff. It's amazing that GA already is in that place. And we're filling up the event hall and we're selling out our tickets to the events. Sure, we're not doing 2,000 man events, but still, it's really cool to see the growth that Weebs has had and Grand Archive as a whole. But that's awesome, man. Your background, I can definitely vibe with that. So it does blow my mind a little bit. You're a pretty well-known player and you've done pretty well for yourself, honestly, especially in your area. I know you're kind of a menace over there, so. This being only your second game that you've really gotten into is really cool. With all that being said, so it is only your second game, but you've been playing since like basically the like early GA days. Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure. I like into it when like I said, showed up and he's like, "Here's 3 starter decks,
Yeah.
choose one."
Yeah.
So I was like, "All right, sure."
Sure.
And I had such a good time with it. I like coming from Magic.
Oh,
It
dude.
was so fresh to like
Mm.
see the resource mechanics and then like putting cards down. And I'd never played with material like a side deck
Mhm.
before. I was like, "This is so cool." So I like really enjoyed it. But yeah, I've been around since like I think I got into it a month like after the Kickstarter like stuff got sent out or something like that.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
I've
So you've
been into
been,
it for a long time.
yeah, same. And I remember your name in the Discord and everything from the early days. So it's awesome to have, players that have stuck around this whole time. And coming from Magic, it's like seamless. Sure,
Yeah.
some of the interactions and some of the ways that things work are a little bit different, which is a little awkward at first, but overall, like stack-based gameplay that we get to do, luckily we already know how to do it. So it wasn't hard to
Yeah.
transition. And people who don't like come from like really like no interaction turn-based like Pokemon or stuff, even like Hearthstone, it's
Yeah.
crazy how many online card game players are like GA is their first in-person like competitive card game.
Yeah, one of my favorite things like about Grand Archive is like when I'll play against somebody and like they'll do something like they'll missequence something or they'll like do something like slow and they could have done it fast. So I'm like, hey, you could actually do it this way and it's like way better.
Yeah.
You know, so like helping them too is like really cool. I really enjoy that about the game
No, for
too.
sure. Same. I love that. People, once they see some of the ways that you can play the stack and like sequence things, it's pretty cool. So,
Before I sent Houston, I didn't know about pre-recollection, and I was like, "This is
oh,
insane! Like,
yeah.
this is
Oh,
so
man.
strong."
Wild. Yeah. Pre-rec is where it all happens, man.
Yeah.
So far, you've been playing for a little while. Looking back at your entire GA career and everything, all the ascents you've been to, regionals, and even just your local play, do you have like a favorite memory or story or something that really comes to mind when you think about your GA experience?
Yeah, actually. So this was in ALC season, and me, Trevor, and Mark drove down from Massachusetts to Virginia, and we were going to play in the Virginia Regional.
Mhm.
We were like, okay, this will be fun. And we're like, hey, there's a store champs like an hour, like 2 hours away. So we're like, let's get a hotel an hour south, and like we'll meet halfway. Like we'll be like an hour from that store champs, and then an hour from the regional. So we get to the store champs on Friday night, and it's like 6:30, I think. There's like 19 people there, and they're like, "All right, 5 rounds, cut the top 8." And we're like, "Oh my god!"
Oh,
so,
goodness.
so they didn't. They probably didn't expect every round to go to time because when I looked at the meta down there, it looked like there was just a bunch of like aggro decks.
Mhm.
But like Steve-O showed up on Luxem, and so every round just goes all the way to time. And then I think I lost to Steve-O in the finals at 3:57 a.m.
Oh my
Then we
goodness.
had to drive an hour back to the hotel, and then we like so it's like 5 o'clock in the morning at this point. We get to the hotel, and Mark is like, "Dude, I can't sleep." I'm like, "We're gonna get like 4 hours of sleep." And he's like, "Can you just put on like some rain sounds or like 10 hours of huskies howling or something like just something to like put me to bed." I'm like, 10 hours of huskies howling. So like we're all delirious, we're so tired.
Yeah.
We finally get to the regional, and then the next morning, and then like he's like, all right, I'm going to drink a monster every round. By the end of the 6th round, his hands are like shaking like this, but he
My
took the whole
heart.
thing down.
Oh my gosh.
It
That's the
was crazy,
secret. You
man.
heard it here first, guys. Just
Yeah,
literally
monster
drink.
energy.
Yeah, just drink as much caffeine as you can. As much as your body will tolerate without giving out. Okay, don't do that.
I was going to say,
Please do not do that. That is not good advice. Don't listen to that. But holy, that's crazy. He was able to take it down even while he was on the jitters.
Yeah, and like after like 4 hours of sleep tops.
That was when, if I remember right, he was like really grinding Windcrux back then, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember
Yep.
seeing that list. I was super excited. I talked to him a little bit because I think he took like the list that we had originally piloted at nationals and like threw in some more allies and made it a little more like aggressive, which was super cool. But yeah, no, that's great. That's a crazy to go from one event, stay up all night, and I mean, I don't know how young the other guys you're with, but man, for me anymore, like there was once a time, where I used to do that kind of stuff with Magic. and travel and go play one tournament, be up all night, go to the next one, or just test all night, not even sleep, and be like, oh, I'll just go play. It's fine. I could never do that now, man.
No, those days are over for
yeah,
me too, man.
Dude, I don't know how I wouldn't have survived. I'm proud of you, man. That's awesome. That's a great story, though. And that's a cool one to like have in your pocket. And it's crazy for how short this game has been around. There has been so many events, like so many ones worth traveling to, and so for such a young game to have such a vast and vibrant competitive scene is really cool.
I agree. I think the coolest part about it is the like prize cards. I think it's so cool.
Oh
like
goodness.
Magic didn't have prize cards.
No. The Magic prizing honestly is pretty terrible until you're like playing on the Pro Tour. So like it's pretty bad. So to go to like the first event, like I remember for us going to Houston, we had no idea what to expect. Obviously we played the game a lot getting ready. And then we were like, okay, let's go see, hopefully we can pull it off. I don't know what the competitive scene's going to be like. And we were able to, obviously all do well. And the amount of money that they put into like their Houston prizing alone was nuts. And so to go to our first event and then that happened. And then we all looked at each other, in the hotel afterwards and we're like, are we doing this? Like, are we committing to this? And then not a week later, Isaac quit his job. Caven went full in. Like we started the Patreon and everything else and just went all in. And it's crazy that Weebs has created a game that, like I said, again, I sound like a broken record, but such a young game that not only do they support the competitive scene so much and put so much into it, through like even like the SB1, SB2 sets, which have allowed us to have so many more ascents and everything else. They really do care about the competitive scene of their game, which as a competitive player, I'm sure you could agree, it's really nice. It's really refreshing. So
yeah.
So all that, moving on to my next question for you. I want to word this in a silly way, so I'm going to make you laugh. Okay, so in Grand Archive so far, do you have a favorite card or champ, and why is it Sylvie, Trent? That's the real question I've got for you, sir.
So it is my favorite card is Sylvie Loved by All specifically.
Oh, okay.
Because when I first started the game, I thought it was so cool, like, because I looked at the 3 starter decks that Mark brought. He brought Lorraine, Rye, and Sylvie. And I was like, okay, so I'm looking at these. I like the Sylvie backstory of just this like young girl who accidentally, like, she's a klutz. She stumbled into the teleporter. Then she like made friends with all the forest like creatures and like they like protect her and stuff. So I was like, it's like that cry for help, like energy summarizes exactly why I like it the most. And the Loved by All, I enjoyed it a lot because it felt like I was able to block like in Magic. So I was like, okay, this feels really familiar to me. Sure. I can at least intercept with these things. And then I started putting it together with Gaia's Blessing and like, playing cards off the top. And I was like, this is so cool. Now I can just put all these blockers on the way and like they can't get around it. So cool. I would say it's probably Sylvie Loved by All.
Oh, dude, that's great. I mean, it is kind of wild. Obviously Sylvie's great. The starter deck is horrendous, by the way. So you take that deck and be like, I love this. You're wild. But it's okay. So big fan of Sylvie, and obviously the Recollection deck was an absolute huge power boost to Sylvie. And Sylvie fans like yourself, and I mean, I guess Tamer fans in general. Isaac's a huge Tamer fan. So like, the slimes, they're super cute. They're vicious though, man. They're vicious. I think it's wild. It absolutely blows my mind that Slimes has kind of been under the radar until now. Like, even though everybody knows it's good. Everybody knows it's like, oh, it's really powerful, whatever. But the most competitive players that are traveling and playing all these events, and no one's on it. And I don't know if that's just because it's literally Tamer. And so it's like, there's this like thought in the back of your head, like, dude, I can't play. There's no way that I'm registering a Tamer deck to this event, right? But now we're starting to see, like we just saw it last weekend in the Yeti event, Slimes just obliterated the Yeti event. And it blows my mind that there is nothing on the watch list from Slimes. Because I think that just, so first off, obviously Tristan and Sylvie are a little overtuned in comparison to all the other classes. It's okay. We could accept that, and I'm okay with that. But the fact that all of these new cards are just so synergistic, I love being able to see what Tamer can do. Like, dude, like Gaia's Blessing, for instance. Like you, that's probably my favorite Tamer card, number one. And it always has been. I've been like trying to make that work. I played Metal Bloom, Sylvie, Dryad. Like, dude, I tried so hard. I played that at locals for weeks. I wanted to make Crawl work. I just couldn't figure it out. And then, well, I could. And when it did it, it was great. But then you just lost to a Dream Fairy or something. So
yeah,
like,
you just get like blown out by Dream Fairy,
Yeah.
or like Merlin will just fireball you, and you're like, cool.
I'm like, I guess I'm dead anyway. But I did the thing. You saw it, guys. But now it's like, okay, cool. I did the thing. I'm going to honestly, and maybe I'd love to hear your feedback as somebody who has played Tamer through all of the different power levels it's been. For me, I think that, so obviously Storm Slime is like incredibly powerful. It's a fact. But I don't think inherently that Storm Slime is the issue. I think that
I agree.
I think that for me, it's probably the synergy between Stone Scale Band and Gaia's Blessing that makes it so powerful. Because, like, for instance, Wind Slimes, that deck feels incredibly fair. And I love how that plays. That feels like Tamer should feel to me, how Wind Slimes plays. And it's a little more board-centric, you're actually using your buff counters, and then, like, sure, we play a Storm Slime, we hit them for 4, maybe 5, and then we bounce it like 3 times, and that feels like cool. But, when I'm playing like, because obviously we play so many games in the Gauntlet, and I have been, the last week I've probably played, I don't even know, man, 100 games on Norm Slime at least. So like, it's just wild to me how I can go from having like nothing to Storm Sliming them for 10 repeatedly. And just and every time I do it, it's like it feels gross. Like I'm like, oh, this deck is absurd. It's really hard, honestly, for me to not just play Sylvie. I'm gonna be honest for you guys heard it here. I don't know if this video is coming out before, but I know that that's something here at TCG that really there's nothing against Sylvie, but because it is, as as most people know, we don't typically play the like top dog. We try to find our way to like squeeze into the crack, right? And figure out what works. So I definitely think that Sylvie is top dog. Even though Tristan took down Yeti, I think that was kind of a fluke. And I think that it was a very good strategy that somebody brought in the week before Ascent, and people weren't ready for it.
Yeah, I think I actually think Win Tristan is really, really strong into Sylvie, because they'll set up a board with a bunch of Pride, like, Pride 5 taunt creatures, and you're like, that's cool, you block this.
Sure.
So like, I think that there's a lot of strong stuff there, and Innervate Agility is really good too, because you can get around Storm Slime, like the Storm Slime with that. So like, I actually think like Win Tristan's really good into the meta right now. If Sylvie's so like going to be so prevalent, we'll see. Who knows?
Yeah. Did you? I talked forever, which I do. I apologize. But if you were to like if you were to look at everything that Sylvie is, what would you think in the new slimes list? Is there anything that's problematic, or do you think everything's honestly pretty fine? I know I kind of tainted your thought because I gave you my opinion first, but
no, truth is, I think cards like Forest Cake and Gray Slime, Baby Gray Slime, are really problematic.
Sure.
To me, like things I'm not used to in this game specifically are cards that just replace themselves, and it's like, hey, this like I'll put this buff counter on this thing and it'll replace itself. Mm-hmm. I'll put this 1/1 interceptor into play and it'll replace itself. Mm-hmm. Like it feels like everything's free, because the biggest thing was always the trade-off on resources as you're leveling up. Mm-hmm. But now you get to have an effect, replace the card, and not really lose much, while you're going up levels. So like being able to put cards into memory always meant you were going down a card. Mm-hmm. So then you'd have to, if you want to put cards in memory to banish something to level up. So now you don't have to go down on cards, which is crazy.
No. Yeah, no, that you're definitely right. I know I played a game today where I went second and I went like Force Cake, draw 3 cards. And then I think I played I want to say I paid like a baby gray after that. I want to say I had enough cards to do that. So like 4 cantrips, 1 turn, I put 4 cards on the board and I still have 8 cards. That's
Yeah, and you could have had a 4/4 intercept if
yeah,
you wanted
yeah,
to.
yeah, like
You know?
just absurd. Dude. So like those kind of moves are just I could totally see that. And I've heard actually a few people say that they feel like the issue is actually some of the cantripping abilities that they have early game into these incredibly powerful late game threats. It's just the most synergistic, which I love. I love all the synergy the slime has, but it's like almost too much for the current meta we're in. It feels like I feel like I kind of feel this way with Tristan too, and I've said this to the guys like when we figured it out and we started playing it, and we were like, guys, I think we broke it. I think we figured it out before Taipei, and we were like, let's do it. Let's keep building into it. And we weren't even close yet. We were close, but like now the Tristan decks are terrifying, and so where they are now, it's the same thing. It's where it feels to me like these two decks are like 2 sets ahead of every other deck. And
I agree. Yeah, the cantripping is really crazy.
Oh, dude, that's what it all is, right? It's the like, what's the problem? People are terrified, and you'll hear them complain if you go into the main Discord, if you go into anything, people will just be absolutely aside themselves over Outlook, and like
I'm one of them.
Yeah, and that's okay. I get it. She's gonna go. She needs to go. When I did our initial FTC review, when I saw her, I said, this card's broken. No one could play her, and she couldn't get used, and like perp counters didn't matter. But I remember thinking, and when like we talked about it, and all the way back in our rating, and I was like, this card is break the game good. It doesn't have its spot yet, and now obviously it's got its spot. So very, very strong. But I don't even think that, like, I think that if you get rid of Outlook, it definitely opens up a lot of play, which is great. And that's awesome. It really opens the door for some more decks to have a little more interaction, which is great.
Yeah, I mean, it forces you to have like an in cap or something for when you go for it, instead of just being like, I'm going to play this. Now I'm going to go for it. Yeah. You can't do anything.
Right. Good luck. And I do understand, like, a lot of people talk about when is the fact that you can use it repeatedly. So like being able to, like, I'm like, oh, I just have to find one card. Glimpse 20. Oh, I found it. Okay, cool. Like, it is like Tristan's very powerful. And it's funny because those two decks go like head to head, right?
Well, like Mastermind Scheme is really the engine, right? Because when you start adding things exponentially, when you're like double it, it means that like Windwalker Boots is putting 4 prep counters on your champion every turn it's been on the board, which is like, okay, well, that's crazy. And that's only after doing two Mastermind Schemes.
Yeah, when you put it that way and people hear it explained that way, because that's how it kind of breaks down. It's wild. It's just, and that's too, if you think about it too, it's all those little, like the little cantrips you have, the little, like Surveil's the issue, bro. That card is absurd. So, I would play that card if it was like a 3-drop slow that did that. And it's a 2-drop fast that does it. And just, oh my goodness. So that card's crazy. Obviously, Sadie's arguably the best card that came out from that set. I think you could probably say there's some other ones too, but just the text that is on her, the turn 1 abilities that you have with her, because there's no class bonus to getting to do all her thing. Obviously the agility is, but we don't really care that much about that. It's the fact that we just get
just want the prep counter.
And I don't lose a card for it. I'm just like, sick. I get to level up, pick it back up. We're chilling. We're back. It is crazy. And I think that I am excited to see where the game is heading. And this level of play and this amount of synergy, the amount of cantrips. It feels like, I talked about this in our Patreon podcast this week, but it really feels like the only deck that honestly keeps up with them is Crux. And I was like, and it's really funny because Crux, everybody, the big meme, Crux is fine. Crux is fine. Like, there's nothing wrong with it, right? And they've had to ban cards out of Crux to make it feel balanced. And as somebody who plays so much Crux, it's always been stronger than the other elements. It's always been a step ahead. And it's not really that close. So it makes sense that Merlin is the deck right now that's like going toe to toe with other random decks that are coming out, right?
I mean, there's a lot of gatekeeping that Merlin does too for like some of the side strategies that could maybe take on things like as I mentioned earlier. I think that there's like there's definitely stuff there, but it just gets gate kept out of the upper tournament levels.
It's crazy all the like checks and balances that the meta has right now, because it's like, okay,
Yeah.
these decks are so good against Slimes and Tristan, but they get absolutely rolled by Merlin, and so you're like, okay, never mind, we gotta go back, and then like in a meta that's so vibrant and so much variance, so open, it's hard to pick a deck that has like insta losses. So you really want something that has that like the closest to an, like, even if it's a disadvantage, like you're probably gonna lose, but you have a chance. Like that's way better than like going, I literally have like a 5% chance to take this match down, right?
Yeah.
But this has been great so far. I love talking to somebody who plays competitively, who plays Sylvie and understands like how much she has risen, like the power level and what she's doing. It's super cool. I hope you guys also enjoy that. I have one last question before we move to Nico for you, and that would be, what would you like to see in the future for GA? Whether that be for the competitive scene, for Weebs of the Shore as a company, even for like a certain archetype coming from Magic, maybe like, I don't know, like a reanimator archetype, or like, something like that. I'm going to leave you with that. I'll let you answer.
That's a really good question. I always said that if they printed Japanese cards, I'd have to rebuy my entire collection in Japanese,
Same.
unfortunately. So, I mean, it's like the old Magic bling mentality, right?
Yeah.
But I think Japanese cards would be really cool.
Yeah.
I think Reanimator. I think Reanimator would be so strong in this game.
Oh.
There's like
water would be
Grand
broken already.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like, I'll just mill these things. Yeah. There's like, I think there's a lot. I actually think cards like Intangible Geist, like that bring cards back from banishment, like are really strong too. And I think like that's an interesting concept to play with too. Like I really like the Slime King, and sending the cards to banishment and then bringing them back.
Sure.
So like, I just wish that the Storm Slime didn't synergize so well with it too. It's like Slime King +3 to my Storm Slimes for now. Oof.
Thank goodness that it has to be different slimes for King Slime. Like,
oh yeah,
could you imagine just putting 3 Storm Slimes under it and then just killing it?
Yeah.
Oh man, that's amazing. No, I think those are great, and I agree with you. I think Reanimator might be not gonna ever happen for us, because I just feel like it'd be way too powerful. The fact that we don't have to like ramp at all, we're just like, mill myself. Oh, I hit my stuff. Cool. I still have 5 cards in hand. Boom. I'm gonna play this 9/9 that you can't kill.
Yeah, like there's turn 2 crawl. Like,
oh man, but I want to turn 2 crawl.
I know, me too.
Oh, dude, that's awesome. Well, all that being said, man, everything we've been able to talk about today, I'd love to give you a minute if you wanted to, give any closing words or any shout outs to, anybody you'd like to say thank you to, obviously. The floor is yours, my friend.
I guess just like, thanks to everybody in Merlin's Marketplace. Like, I spend so much time in there. Every morning I'm just like, all right, time to like go in there and post something like Unhinged. And
that's like, where you and I talk every day, man. Merlin every morning.
It is good. So like, I mean, everybody in that chat's great. Just like the LB guys, shout out to them. Shout out to you guys. I think you guys are great. It's always like nice seeing you at events and stuff, of course. But yeah, I guess that's like it.
Sure. I mean, hey, now you guys know Trent a little more, so you got to make sure you come up to him at the next event, come and talk to him, get to know him so that he'll thank you in the next video that we do with him, all right? So with all that, thanks, man, so much. Thank you for your time. I won't steal any more of it. I know you and I, like, we got done with work today. We're like, hey, we're going to make this happen before a set. I'm leaving for Chicago in like a day. You're leaving in a couple days. Yeah. So I wish you all the luck. I look forward to seeing you there, man. Thank you again. Have a great rest of your night.
Thanks. You too, man.
Yeah, and thank you guys for everything. We will catch you on the next one. Peace.